Hello and welcome to Psychology IRL. That's psychology in real life for those of you who have lives to live and don't concern yourself with internet lingo that in a few years' time will be considered archaic and cringe, or whatever new word people will use because the word cringe will itself have become cringe. Welcome to the podcast. If you're hearing this, that means this podcast has graduated from being an idea in my head to an actual thing that exists, which is pretty cool if I do say so myself. This here is an episode 0 of sorts. Essentially, it's an introduction to who I am, what this show is, and what I hope people will get out of it. I hope this will set a tone for the show going forward, and give you a bit of an idea of what exactly you're getting into. Psychology IRL was born out of a question I, as a psychology student, have heard in class more times than I can count. Okay, cool, but when are we ever going to use this in the real world? This show exists as an answer to that question. There are two different ways you can approach this show. First, perhaps you already have some sort of relationship with psychology. Maybe you studied it in high school, or got really deep into Jung or the Enneagram, or maybe you've even started a degree in psychology, but you've never really gotten to know psychology on an intimate level. You've been on a date, you know what they do for a living, and maybe you've even held hands, but you don't really know them. You don't know their deep, dark secrets. If that sounds like you, then prepare for the second date. On the other hand, maybe you don't have any particular connection to psychology, but you do have some questions about the world, and in particular, about why people do the things they do. Why is social media so addictive? Why can't we seem to do anything about climate change? Why was Snoop Dogg at the Olympics? Well, if that's you, then I have a guy I'd like to introduce you to. Chances are you've seen him before, just didn't know it was him, so I think it's well overdue for you two to get acquainted with one another. Do you ever extend a metaphor so far you forget what point it was supposed to make in the first place? In a sentence, the point of this podcast is to democratize my psychology degree. I'm going to say something controversial here when I say that I think the internet is wonderful. Truly wonderful. Sure, there's the bullying and the disassociation and the terrorists and the misogyny and the racism and the cyber attacks and the fraud and the misinformation and the humiliation and the mental health problems and the grifters and the scammers and the trolls, but if you ignore all of that, then the internet represents an incredible tool for education. I have learned so many things from the internet for free. I have learned politics, philosophy, economics, biology, history, theology, music theory, and so much more, and it cost me nothing. That is insane. Hell, I learned how to make a podcast on the internet. I owe an immense debt to people willing to teach things on the internet for free. So the point of this podcast is to give back. If you have any interest in psychology whatsoever, then welcome. No prior experience required. We'll start with the basics and work our way up. There's no fee, no registration, no catch. Just me and my microphone, and you and your speakers. I hope you learned something. Now, it's important to note that I am a psychology student. I am not a registered psychologist, at least not at this point in time. My opinions, informed by science as they are, do not reflect the opinions of any psychological body or institution. Hell, they might not even represent my opinions, you wouldn't know. Maybe all this is me gritting through my teeth. Probably not, but if I keep the guise of ambiguity up, then that renders me immune to criticism, and my ego likes that. Each episode of this show will take an in-depth look at a particular topic in the world of psychology. The first part of each episode will be purely educational. We will look at what the topic is, how it works, and a few of the key figures involved. The second part of each episode will be an involved, real-world application of the idea discussed in the first half. In essence, we'll have a class together, then I'll answer the question, when are we ever going to use this in the real world, for you? The parts are designed to be listened to together, but you can listen to them separately. If you come from a psychology background and already know the content, feel free to skip the first half. If you don't care about my opinions and just want to cram for your exam, then skip the second half. I would definitely recommend listening to the whole episode in order, but I'll mark the sections in case you think you know better than me. I am extremely excited and even more terrified to be doing this, so I really hope that you, whoever you are, get some value out of it. Please, if you enjoy the show, engage with it. Leave a like or a review or however the platform you're listening on works. Reach out to me, tell a friend about the show, or name your firstborn after me. Any support is appreciated. And if there are any topics you want me to cover, then throw your suggestions out there. I live to serve, or something like that. I'm saying this now because I'm not going to say it at the end of every episode. I think it's really annoying when podcasters do that. I'm not going to end every episode with the whole like and subscribe rant, so instead the episodes are just going to end when I decide to end them. I think it's funnier that way. Plus, it keeps people on their